Governments around the world must take rapid, far-reaching, and unprecedented changes in all aspects of society to avoid disastrous levels of global warming, says international meteorologist Brandon Miller. Our actions as a nation, including that of President Trump's negligence towards the issue, offers even more concern for humanity. Uneducated skeptics may protest that climate change is a hoax or not as severe as scientists lead to believe, but that is incorrect. We need regulation laws now more than ever, not just because humanity is at stake, but because we must take responsibility as a nation for our part that was played in increasing climate change, help the future generations of our planet, and stand united against an administration that is against us. The U.S. is the second largest emitter of carbon dioxide. It is our job as a country to take responsibility for the damage we created. We are to blame for the climate change that has grown on our watch while we have sat idly by and not taken measures to prevent this. Because of this and dangerously increasing high carbon emissions, many experts are stressing the importance of government regulation. While the action that needs to be taken is drastic, it is plausible. Global carbon dioxide emissions need to be decreased by 45%. This would take major changes in cities, buildings, industries, and transportation. Programs like cap and trade, signing of the Paris Agreement, or government incentives for companies are all ways to starting this process. During the Obama administration, regulations and laws were being set in place during the signing of the Paris Agreement in 2015. This agreement, or international treaty, was derived under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. It was adopted in December 2015 and aimed to reduce the emission of gases that contribute to global warming. The Paris Agreement set out to improve upon and replace the Kyoto Protocol, an earlier international treaty designed to curb the release of greenhouse gases. However, the Trump administration decided to back out of the agreement and roll back all the progress that was made during the Obama era. 193 countries have signed this treaty and have acknowledged the dire need for change within government regulation. 193 countries, but not the U.S., not the second largest emitter of carbon dioxide. As the future of this nation, we should be gravely concerned for our children, friends, and family growing up in a far different world than the U.S. If nothing is done to reduce these emissions and save our planet, advocating for climate change, voting for those in power who have the chance to make changes and decrease emissions is essential to protecting our world. With catastrophic effects of climate change approaching us, we will soon have nothing left for generations to come. But it is the blue-collar families and lower-income households who will endure the ramifications of climate change more than anyone. The current administration we are under does not care for the lower class, who will in no way have the ability to gain safety or an income high enough to protect themselves from the risks that are quickly approaching us. And it doesn't stop there. Third world countries who do not have the capital or resources to save themselves from these dire consequences will suffer. It is easy for those of wealth to pack up and move once we start experiencing these drastic changes in climate, such as hurricanes, heat waves, floods, droughts, and so much more. But many other families, lower income families, will lose their homes, savings, jobs, and potentially their lives. It is irresponsible for our country to neglect this truth despite how hard it may seem to solve it. If we give up now as a nation and do nothing to even try, we will undoubtedly miss it a long way. It is easy not to care when you can't see the effects happening right in front of you, but one day you will. Marianne Lavelle, a reporter and writer for Inside Climate News, shed light on the mockery that is our newfound Environmental Protection Agency under the Trump administration. The EPA is designed to keep citizens safe, protect our environment, and set laws and regulations in order to do this. And one of the major issues that the EPA is facing is global warming. However, under the Trump administration, they have appointed a new director of the EPA who has been on record of denying climate change. Marianne Lavelle goes on to say that under the Trump administration, contrarian scientists, policy professionals, corporations, and lawyers affiliated with conservative interests contemplated the spread of climate action agenda as if it were a malignancy. What this means is that this new EPA under the Trump administration has become corrupt, with corporations and politicians who could care less about the effects of climate change and the people it will harm if nothing is done. And yet corporations who, because of this administration, are in turn getting immense breaks and rollbacks and emission caps are still complaining. This precedent, along with many other experts' concerns, sheds light on the hypocrisy within the government and the growing worries scientists have because of this administration. Now more than ever, it is so important to stand up and fight for change. The fact that our administration is relentlessly denying and ignoring the immense effects that are unraveling as we speak is shocking and unfortunate, but it does not mean we are without hope. I think it is vital every person becomes educated and makes a stand to do something about the future of our planet, because in no other words, our lives are on the line. Lisa Friedman, a writer for the New York Times, emphasizes the inaccuracy of President Trump's statements about climate change. Trump has been on record of saying that these harsh climate change conditions could eventually go back. Well, according to the National Climate Assessment Report approved by the White House in November, top federal scientists found that unequivocally they will not. What this shows is that President Trump concerningly doesn't know nor cares to understand and learn the truth about climate change. However, like President Trump, many people believe climate change is not as drastic an issue as scientists and people will lead you to believe. What these people are failing to see is the statistical facts and data that prove their argument to be incorrect. Here's a graph from NASA Global Temperature Report and the New York Times article titled 2017 was one of the hottest years on record, and that's without El Nino. El Nino is an abnormal weather pattern caused by the warming of the Pacific near the equator off the coast of South America. The sun warms the water near the equator, which can make more clouds and therefore more rain. This specific graph, however, shows the shockingly high surface temperature increase, and that is without El Nino's help. Henry Fountain and Nadia Popovich, reporters for New York Times, used this graph to highlight some of the highest average surface temperatures ever recorded, surprising scientists who had expected a sharper retreat from recent years. In addition, what this shows, along with numerous other data provided, is that those who are uneducated or unwilling to care have no truth behind the claims that we are exaggerating the measures. This data goes to show that these radical surface temperatures are in fact human-made, which many people, including this administration, try to argue it is not. However, this data specifically states that fueled by emissions of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases, temperatures have increased. These emissions only come from human-made pollution such as high industry pollution, agricultural runoff, automobile pollution, and more. Our Earth does not release these gases or make them naturally. Thus, the need for climate change regulation has never been more crucial than now. With our Earth on the brink of destruction, it is time to take a stand and a call to action to begin saving our planet. We need regulation not just because our humanity is at stake, but because we must take responsibility as a nation for our part that was played in increasing climate change, stand together against an administration that is against us, and help future generations of our planet. Even if the percentage of saving our Earth is slim and we are far behind, it seems impossible. As journalist Andrew Jones put it, we could order in Chinese and lock ourselves in the closet, but we shouldn't, because there's good news. We are perfect for the job. If human species specialize in one thing, it's taking on the impossible.